Welcome back to Pop Kannon. This is episode 66. We are your hosts. My name is Jordan.
I'm Robert.
And I'm Joe.
Guys, today we are discussing the newest Marvel film, The Eternals. It's just Eternals, not just Eternals. The newest Marvel film, Eternals.
The Eternals is giving the Marvel Cinematic Universe a creation myth in the most fucking bonkers way that you could. And the Eternals themselves are a group that was placed on Earth by Celestials in the Stone Age to fight the Deviants, which are, we will discuss later, but they're creepy monsters that want to kill all humans for some reason that we will find out. They were placed there by the Celestials, who, if you have been watching, you would recognize from Guardians of the Galaxy. And the Celestials are gods, not like Thor's a god, like actual gods that create galaxies and planets and life. And the Eternals, as they are called, came here in the Stone Age, and then they were here for 7,000 years until something happens.
Some things happen throughout the course of 7,000 years, obviously.
So we're going to start at the beginning, and we're going to get you through all 7,000 years one by one.
So there's a little boy with a stone knife.
So yeah, the scope of this film is massive, which it literally is. This is the furthest that we've ever peered behind the curtain within the MCU and the structure of it, I feel like. And that to me is really exciting and really interesting. The Celestials came off as these larger than life beings and like this legitimate imposing force. It's so cool to me. As far as the characters of the Eternals, it was cool. I don't necessarily know if the movie's anywhere in my top 20 films of the 26. I don't know. I got to think about it some more. Joe's very upset that I said that.
I'm just very surprised. Like, I can't imagine. We get like really hung up on rankings, but like I can't imagine putting this that low. Like, it's just such like a wild concept. And then like the more I think about it, like the actual climax of it is so like cartoony and weird. Like if I say it out loud, it sounds so dumb, like worse than Ultron making a meteor to crash into the earth. But the way that like by the end of that movie, like I was just sold on it. I like everything in this movie felt justified to me. And like I loved these characters. I thought they felt very genuine for how ridiculous of a concept they are. And I think that's always like the first most hurdle of any Marvel property is like, how are we going to like put this on screen and have people care about it, like connect with this when it's like not an actual cartoon. And I really think that Marvel and Chloe Zhao really did do it. So this is definitely a lot higher than 20 for me. I'm not sure where I put it, but, and especially for like every movie since Endgame, like a talking point for me has been what is going on in the universe next. And I think every film has had a different answer for that. I don't think any of these have really built off of the last one so much. It's really just like everything's going in a different direction. Which, who knows, it might all come crashing back together. If anything would draw it all back together, I think it would be something as big as this movie, but I guess we'll see.
So I liked a lot of this movie, but I didn't love this movie, and I didn't think that it was great. As far as rankings go, I would probably put it in that 15 to 20 area, but it definitely would not hit my top 10, and it's certainly nowhere near the top 5. But yeah, I just, some of the characters I really liked and really connected with and really enjoyed their arc in the film. And some of them in the third act made me really mad. and I didn't understand why certain people were acting the way that they acted. And I did not like how every character seemingly stabbed another one in the back and then they were just fucking cool like the next second. That kind of shit like really fucking bugged me. And the action was like cool for what we got of it. There wasn't a lot. There was some really big pieces that I thought were cool. But yeah, it was a lot more talking than I think Marvel movies are used to doing. And I think that was probably by design, because this went for a much more emotional tone than I think a lot of them try to do. And yeah, you mentioned the deviants earlier. They were a thing in the movie that got weirder inexplicably and then didn't matter, you know? So.
Yeah. That irked me because it felt like that character that was evolving just didn't matter. No. Like, what was his motivation even? Because he showed up in the third act and he's fighting the Eternals, which makes sense, right? But then all of a sudden he's fighting the Eternal who's fighting them. And I don't necessarily know what's happening at that point.
Also, it was Bill Skarsgard, by the way.
Yeah.
I saw his name in the fucking credits and I went...
Yeah. Yeah, and it took me a second to put it together, which is cool.
Yeah.
But
I literally went, wait, when?
But like they could have done so much more with that character and make him mean something. And I feel like that's part of my issue with the entire film is it tried focusing on so many different things and tried being so many different types of like movies that it suffered because it was trying to do too much instead of focusing on areas where it should have.
So with the deviants, I definitely agree. I feel like it was very anticlimactic when Thena just immediately sliced him and he died. That whole like cave scene was kind of a reference to, in the most recent run, Thena has like a relationship with a deviant. So like part of me wonders, especially with it being Bill Skarsgård, if like maybe he's like not dead, but like for the purposes of this movie, he is, and like that was very strange. All the deviant's purpose when he says basically we're the same. You know, I was the first child cast away, and you were just here to clean up after their mistake. Granted, but like because he's already killed two of their family, he can't, you know, they can't resolve and team up in the final battle. So it really just ended up having to be that because he was just so far gone in his philosophy.
I got the fact that he was absorbing their power and evolving.
Yeah.
But what I did not expect was him to just start fucking talking like a person. I was immediately uncomfortable when he started speaking and standing on two legs and he looked like a man with six eyes. I was like, get that thing the fuck out of here. Like immediately.
Isn't that effective though?
But
that he's so monstrous, and like that's the thing of the deviants, like they're these monstrous things, but they're alive.
It was the opposite way. It was the other side of the coin with it. It wasn't the effective part of it. It was just, this is so fucking out of left field. Why is this here?
Okay.
It made sense to me that he would absorb the powers, but like it almost confused me because it felt like, wait, is that supposed to be Salma Hayek's character? Like that's what I was thinking at one point.
I think they also want you to think that because there's kind of that mystery element to the whole thing too. I don't have as much of an issue with it because so much of the deviant story is about evolution.
Yeah.
That like they evolved to eventually like try to become the apex predator instead of ensure that humans would be the apex predator.
I just felt like I was not prepared for him to gain sentience and essentially become like a little like weird mini Ultron for like 5 minutes before he gets sliced and diced. Which was just like he's like expounding on the human condition, and I was like, can we just slow down?
Well, they tease ever since like when you first see him after he's already absorbed Ajax that like he's not the same as the other deviants. Right. He's got something else. And even though he gave the other ones shared that power, it's not really implied that any of them have the same level of intelligence that he got.
That he does, right.
Yeah.
Which I think that celestial power is very important.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's just...
That's in the comics, cosmic energy, basically. And
there's so much left unexplained in the MCU, this many films in, about how certain people use and draw power and where it comes from. Specifically Scarlet Witch, for example. But I think that they're going to start leaning into that as we push further into where we're going with her.
Yeah.
But for a while, it was just completely unexplained.
See, it's interesting that you bring up Scarlet Witch, because within WandaVision, they mention how the witch could create matter. And in this, we have a character, Sersi. She can't create matter, but she could change it. Yeah. So I thought that was a very interesting and compelling power to have. And I really think that Gemma Chan did a really fantastic job portraying this character, because I really liked her. I wish she had more to do, actually, but that's the problem with having a movie with this many characters and trying to juggle it. What did you guys think about Sersi?
You don't have to juggle them. Just let them stand on the beach facing the camera twice.
It's the team shot. That's what you do in a team movie.
Two of them? And nothing happens.
Watch any fucking Avengers movie. There's 2 team shots.
Yeah, but they're all preparing to fight. The fucking Eternals finish beating the shit out of everyone and then do the team pose and what?
So do the Avengers.
The Power Rangers.
That happened in Justice League as well.
Yeah, and the end of Avengers 1, they're pointing at Loki.
Yeah.
The Eternals finish fighting at the gates of Babylon, turn away from them, and all stand like this.
Yeah.
As the camera pulls away. It was just banana pants that it happened that way, I felt like, because there's no other reason why they would fucking do that other than to stand and look at the camera. Anyway, so Cersei's power is really cool. It looked really cool on screen, even though initially I wasn't 100% sure what she was doing. She was liquefying solids.
She's like an alchemist, basically. She changes one thing into another. But before she got that celestial orb, she couldn't do it to sentient beings. Oh, and that was why
that
when
makes
she turned
sense.
When she turned the deviant into that fucked up tree, which was crazy body horror, that's why she and everyone was freaking out. They're like, "How'd you do that?" And she said, "I don't fucking know."
Okay, so that was, for me, super underdeveloped and explained.
No, because Dane says to her, "Could you turn me into a giraffe?"
Yeah.
No, I understand that she said that she couldn't do it before, but what I'm saying is there was never a moment where they were like, due to her getting this, that's why she can do it now. So her just saying, I don't know, led me to believe that she was did she always have that ability? Like Scarlet Witch? No. Yeah. In the sense that she
use your brain. She got this thing. That's the only thing that changed.
I just thought that orb was the only way that she could communicate with the Celestials. That's what I thought that orb was, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
That was never communicated clearly that there was more to that.
I don't
with
know.
the Celestials.
I understood it.
For me, she was one of my least favorite characters in the film.
Really?
I felt like she did more silent, medium shots where nothing was happening, but you were just looking at her and you're supposed to assume what she's feeling or something because nothing's being said. There were so many of her just not doing anything where you're supposed to get the emotion of the moment, and I just felt
I don't think that there was that many.
I didn't like it, and I didn't translate for me at all, and I just kept going, why the fuck do we keep doing this? It by the time it happened, the third time, I was like, okay, I guess she's the emotional anchor of this film, and I missed it somewhere. I just completely fucking was backwards on that character for me. I didn't like her much at all. And then like at the end where she's supposed to save her, like she just kept saying, I don't know. And I'm like, how fucking heroic. Thank God you're here. Jesus. There's only
That's the point of her though, because she's not Ikaris. That's why
there's only one
chosen.
character that handles their fucking power worse, but we'll get to that guy when we get there.
Well, let's just go there now.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
How the fuck, like, Kingo leaving and not being part of the end battle for me was just like such a fucking kick in the nuts.
Yeah,
it was weird.
That made
it
no
was
sense
weird for him
to
to
me.
leave.
Was he not available for the shoot and they had to write it into the fucking movie?
I think it might have just been he chose not to go.
That's so weird, dude. That's not a choice when you're a fucking hero at that level. I'm sorry.
But you think about it's his family. He's being asked to like choose between people that he loves, and he can't make that decision.
He took his ball and went home, and there's no respect in that.
Yeah, I didn't like that because it just felt very uncharacteristic because essentially if he does nothing, the planet's going to explode and die anyway. And he's like, well, I'm just going to hang out here.
And then he doesn't do anything. And then he shows up at the end. Once they tagged him back at the end, I was like, why are they cool with him being there now?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? That's not a conversation to have. Hey, bud, thanks for dropping the ball on that one. Definitely didn't need your fucking finger guns ever, I guess. Don't expect the phone to ring.
I think it's just because they're a family. I think you're just supposed to understand that like he couldn't possibly make that choice, and like I'm sure they were frustrated, but I think they had to respect it in the end. It's the same as like why they accepted Sprite back at the end.
Yeah, again, didn't make sense to me, but
yeah, I didn't like Sprite
at all, dude. At all.
I felt like Sprite killed that villain arc for Ikaris for me.
Yeah.
Really just soured it because the entire motivation for her character was because she like was in love with him.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting exploration of an immortal character who's trapped in a child's body. And then it was a funny cop out at the end to turn her human just so you could keep the actress around. But
yeah, I thought about that. And that was another question that I had. I was like watching the film thinking to myself, well, how are they going to explain her aging? Because like the others, you could kind of get away with it. But her, you're going to know.
And like to the family thing, I didn't like how easily they all decided that they would stab each other in the back, like constantly.
Yeah.
Like there was near constant double crossing among the entire group. And I was like, so, dude, what the fuck is happening? And then they're all like lovey-dovey and shit. You can't introduce 8 characters at the same time and then try to get me to understand their complex relationships and then fuck those relationships over at the same time. It's a lot of information to try to process in the course of like also having all of this shit thrown at you.
But that's what families do. Like, I especially love Druig's role because, like, Druig in the comics is, like, always the bad guy. And they definitely wanted you to believe that, like, he was going to be the bad guy here. And even in the end, like, they still don't like Druig, but, like, they keep him around because he's an Eternal. Like, he's their weird uncle.
I liked Druig. Yeah.
I enjoyed Druig. I didn't, I don't think you're supposed to like
I feel like you almost didn't even need that character in the fucking movie.
Why?
I mean, aside from the initial, is he the bad guy kind of thing that they had going on, I don't know that he like affected so much other than lending his power at the end as well.
I think he added to that moral conversation about what their role should be on Earth. I think he's a good foil to Ikaris's like golden boy persona. That like that's why it's like also satisfying that Ikaris ends up being the true antagonist.
I immediately knew that it was Ikaris. Yeah. Like immediately he showed up and the way his body language was and the way he said it was deviance. I was like, oh, so it was,
he just killed
it was him. It was you. Like, so the entire time I'm just waiting
for that shoe to
drop. That. Yeah. So, and that could be why I didn't think that Druig was ever the bad guy. Like that thought didn't even cross my mind. So it brings up that morality thing where, like, if he just controls them, which I feel like that's an overall theme of this MCU phase, you know, is like control and people's influence on control over others.
Free will.
Well, that was even a theme of Winter Soldier. So
Yeah. So like
True.
but it feels so prevalent now.
Yeah. I will say though, like, by the time we get to the action sequence in the Amazon, like, I was so desperate for that to happen. It was like walking without water for a really long time and then finally getting just like a little bit. You're just like, oh, thank fucking Christ, they're going to fight something. Oh, it's going to be so great. And that scene was really good. That's probably my favorite sequence of the whole film is the Amazon fight.
My only issue with it is like how kind of like poorly lit it was, which like
it was so dark.
It worked really well when Ikaris was fighting with his lasers and everything, but every other shot of it was like pretty dull in a movie that like otherwise I thought looked really great.
Yeah.
It was shot beautifully and it was so colorful in a lot of the scenes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Marvel gets a lot of flack for the way it like colors and lights its movies. And I don't think this didn't look like it fit into the rest of the universe, but I thought that they put a lot more care into how they presented it. So it looked really good while still fitting in with the rest of the movies. So I hope that kind of like sets a little bit of a bar for other films going forward. But
and one of those like, beautifully done shots was like right at the end where Sersi and Dane were in that like big field. That it was just so wide and sprawling and massive, and you could see it at like super, super far into the distance.
And it works doubly well to then use that sky as the canvas to put the Celestial looming from out in space.
And which I will live action, what this was, that's so much more effective than when you see it in What If with the Watcher.
Yeah,
and whatnot.
It looks like
while
the Teletubby stuff.
That was fucking when the Celestial's face comes up. I was just like I literally sat back like because it was just so imposing. That was super fucking cool.
Yeah, the Celestials and the way that they presented them, like including like Eratium, I guess was that like prime Celestial, like so cool. The design, the look, the voice, like the sounds that they just made. Good. It's such an imposing force. Like you know that these gods are here to fuck some shit up.
If they wanted to.
If they wanted to.
Eratium being there was super fucked up, and then the other fucked up crazy thing is that the entire conflict of this is that a celestial seed had been planted in the earth. Yeah. And it's now hatching.
Where do you think we got Mother Earth, Joe? Okay.
Yeah. Which is actually a story from Earth X, which is a wild, like, dystopian alt universe that, like, I can't believe they actually, like, went with. But anyway, the egg is hatching and they have to stop it.
Yeah, because, like, having to explain the plot of the film, you have to include that. Yeah. Because when you explain that part of the story, it really informs the rest of it. But not knowing it going in, and definitely not knowing it for at least the first half of this, and then getting that, you're just like, nothing else matters.
And now that's just there.
That's what I mean when I said earlier the movie's trying to do too much. Is it really was trying to do too much. And the Celestial stuff, I feel like, could have been the post credits, and no, like that could have been like the post credits, and have like a second film be there's a Celestial in the earth.
Yeah, okay, I get what you mean.
I think if it wasn't for that climax, I don't think that would have been enough for me.
Yeah. Without it in
like
this
if they
movie,
just told us like, oh, this is the truth and this is why we're here, and then they didn't do that,
But I think maybe what Jordan's saying is make the deviants mean something else or more.
Yes.
So
that way you get more to this plot. I'm not saying remove that entirely, because if you remove that entirely from this movie, it does not work at all. It's dead.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, had they have written it differently,
use that as the hook for the next one.
Yeah.
I get you.
Yeah. Anyway, so back to the Earth is now impregnated with a celestial.
Yeah,
that's such a crazy fucking story. And then like when you see it coming out of the ocean, like you see those several rocks in a specific formation. I'm like, all right, it's definitely his hand, right?
Yeah.
And then you see the head because they all have the same like 6-eye thing going on, and you're like, wow, that's gigantic. But for me, all of this talk about Celestials means nothing until I see fucking Galactus. So I was hoping that one of them would name drop again, or I'm begging for it. I'm begging for it now.
That's the thing, though. So one, like, Arisham's last thing that he says is that he's going to read their memories and then come back for judgment. But then if they're going to draw more from Earth X, Galactus is actually the one that comes and removes the Celestial from Earth. But then the absence of the Celestial then throws the Earth off balance. And it's like almost like apocalyptic at that point, which like that Celestial got like half out of the ground. Did it leave like a vacuum where it moved from? Like, what are the consequences of this now? Because he got pretty far out.
Yeah. And it almost makes me wonder, like, is he still in there like all the way?
Right.
Like, I think he was completely
Are they going to make...
Oh.
I was going to say, are they going to make that Galactus?
That's what I was thinking.
Like, they go ahead and Zod it from Man of Steel.
I wouldn't like that, because Galactus isn't really a Celestial.
When they said his name, what was the one that's in
Tiamat?
Tiamat. I was so hopeful that it was going to be something that when they said his name like once, I was like, well, maybe they'll change it. I don't know. And then I'm either thinking like Galactus is among the group with Arishem, or a character that's in antithesis to Arishem or something like that. Like, I want to know when he's coming. I know he's coming. And every time we talk about space and Celestials and I don't hear the word Galactus, I become disappointed and frustrated.
Well, another thing of Earth X is that Galactus doesn't just hunger, like he's the natural and predator of the Celestials. So he eats worlds that have been seeded by the Celestials. So
that's cool as fuck.
I wonder now that like Tiamat's gone, I don't know that gives Galactus a reason to come to Earth, unless they go with like the kind of new Ultimates run where like maybe Galactus is a villain in like a Guardians movie or something like that, or in like Annihilation or something, but then they team up with him kind of, or direct him at the Celestials.
Maybe. Imagine a whole film of just Celestials.
So the editing to me was jarring in parts, especially in the beginning.
Yes.
And then not even just transitionally, because that was bad to me. Going from scene to scene.
Hard cuts, dude.
Really messed with me.
There's a scene at the beginning. I think it's Sersi and maybe it's Ikaris. And there
it's right in the beginning.
That's right when they wake
six fucking back and forth, and then they're on one side of the room, and the next cut is the two of them standing next to each other, looking out the gigantic window. And I was like, "What the fuck just happened, dude? Like, why did you cut that many times and then jump cut them up again? Like, we didn't see them move." They were over on this side, and then they suddenly are all the way over at the window. And I was like, this is where we're going to save the time. After seeing the movie, I'm like, that's where we saved the time. We couldn't have them walk 3 steps to a fucking window, but we left the rest of that shit in there. But yeah, the editing bothered me throughout for most of it, except I think in most of the quiet stuff. And I didn't have an issue really with how they did the action scenes. It was definitely that big beginning portion that was fucking just weird for no reason.
And I think it's just because of the way that they experience time, maybe. It could be like a memory that they were cutting to, but it wasn't clear. They didn't establish that, you know?
No. I was able to follow it. I felt pretty good about it.
You see it differently.
I will say
you know
the only thing, the like second, I think, flashback, that was pretty disorienting for me. I think like at other times, kind of like how you felt with the action sequence coming up, like I think they like naturally like reached a point where it's like, and now we can cut to like a backstory thing. But like the Babylon one was like, I'm kind of into what's going on in the present right now, but we're going to go back to this. So that was that. And that was the only one that I really felt disoriented by. But otherwise I didn't have any issue with the editing.
I didn't necessarily like having a character die and having everybody be super emotional about it, and then having her in the next scene like alive and talking because it's a flashback. And I was just like, that really dampers the feeling that I have about, but I appreciated it because it allowed you to get deeper into who she was and what she knew. So like you needed it, but just like killing her off and having everybody weep for a really long time. And
I feel like
going, all right, well, here she is.
I think it's an interesting flip of the script to have her death be the inciting incident, basically. But then we get to know who she is, and like we understand why they're mourning by the end. I feel like it's definitely like a break of form in some way, but I liked the way that they did it, so I didn't have an issue with that. So I think it's okay to break some rules if you do it the right way. And in my opinion, they did it the right way.
No, and it's not necessarily a complaint. Like overall, after the fact, I was like, okay, no, it was effective. But just in the moment of watching everyone cry for 15 minutes about her being dead, and then like jump cut to she's standing there on the porch, and you're like, okay. Because you don't know necessarily what the rules are.
And I was surprised because they're not really eternal. Like in the comics, there's the machine that like they resurrect if they die. So like they are eternal. Like they can't die.
Oh,
like
okay.
the plot line of the like the Kieran Gillen run was like the first arc is that the machine is broken and somebody's killing them. So like somebody sabotaged the machine and is now killing them and they can't come back.
Right.
Which is like an interesting plot line. But like
I do agree that it is weird in a film called The Eternals and in characters called The Eternals. How many die? That is weird. To kill off Gilgamesh was just like, dude, what the fuck, man?
Gilgamesh
was so upset.
He was a good fucking dude.
What he did was be the heart of the movie, so you had to take him away.
Yeah. I really enjoyed like his and Thena's relationship. I liked that they were friends. I wish they were more, but I'm glad that they were like.
I appreciate that it was platonic. I fucking appreciate that because it doesn't just have to be out of romantic love.
Yeah, I agree. But like they had a chemistry.
They did.
That was very nice, and I enjoyed that. And as soon as they killed him off, I wish there was more than just her cutting him in half to
Athena
get revenge or something.
One of the characters in this movie, I don't know that was handled well at all. I really don't. I enjoyed her when she was in her action scenes, but like the being the anchor to everything because she's gonna turn bad and fight us now was just like that annoyed the shit out of me. It really did. Like, how does she have a fucking programming malfunction? She was created by a god. Like, can we just like get her rebooted or something like that? Like, why the fuck does she keep trying to kill them? It's so annoying.
I liked that about her. I liked that she had what they called mad weary, right? It added an element to her character that was fun because.
But I wanted to see her fight because that's what she sold on doing, and then.
But she did. She
did.
But
then she was like a scared fucking and I was just like, dude, whatever. It really fucking annoyed me so bad because it was like, I get doing it maybe once, but then like having it be a constant fucking thing was just like, oh, Jesus.
Of any of them, she's the one you would least want to have that issue.
Yeah.
And I do think it makes it all the more satisfying when she gets to fight Ikaris in the end.
I felt like it was super tropey and obvious that was going to like that she went through what she went through. And they're going to have to figure that out also while they're dealing with the other hijinks. Like that just...
But that goes to show, like, I think they just tried to do too much. They tried to do that trope. They tried to do so many things that if they just focused on a couple, I feel like this movie would have been a lot better. Yeah. And probably in a lot more people's, like, top 10 even. Mm-hmm. I liked it. Don't get me wrong. I had a really good time just, like, watching it. But, like, there were aspects of it, like the plot taking forever to get going.
Oh my God.
Because it wasn't until they made it to Phastos, it wasn't until they made it to him that like anything actually started to get going.
And that was so deep into the film. Like there was a point where in between the Amazon fight and Phastos, I literally like pulled my phone and looked at the time and been like, I've only been here an hour? Like, holy shit, dude. Like, it really started to feel long at that point. But speaking of him, dude, he was a great character. I mean, it's the reason this movie's getting fucking review bombed by a bunch of idiots that don't know any better. So we might as well just mention it in passing. He's gay. Big fucking deal. Anyway, I had way more of an issue of the sex scene between Ikaris and fucking Sersi than I had with him having a family. So, because that was so fucking out of left field and so bonkers in the middle of that movie to have the two of those characters have shirts off missionary sex in a PG-13 film like that. So weird. Yeah.
To some extent it was awkward, but I think that's just because we have kind of a bad relationship with sex. But I think sex is also a very human thing. Like, I mean, it's an animal instinct, but like humans make it something more, even. I guess. Right. But Sersi is in love with humanity. And I think like the entire movie and all of the characters' arcs is about humanity, and it's about connecting with humanity on every level. Like Kingo is connected with their dreams and their stories and their fantasies. Phastos had his like faith in humanity crushed, and then he found it again just by falling in love and having a family again. Ikaris is an asshole.
From the jump, dude. From the jump.
That begs the question, is Ikaris learning how to have sex from Sersi as they have sex?
Yeah, maybe.
Or has he been laying pipe for 5,000 years?
Maybe they don't even have sex organs. Maybe they were just hugging.
They were naked hugging in that meadow. That was nice.
Yeah, but I was kind of sitting there thinking what age would my kid be that I'd bring them to see this? Which I guess 13. Right? I'd probably be like, yeah, it's fine. By that point,
because you could do what my dad used to do and just be like, they're hugging.
You could do what my sister did during Titanic and tell me to leave and then not tell me that the scene was over. And then I sat in the dining room for an hour.
Nice. So you just think that movie ended.
Yeah. They just go to the garage and then the boat gets there.
But yeah, so awkward sex scene. Didn't like it.
The sex scene just felt very unnecessary to me because if you're trying to convey the message that these two characters are in love, I think that wedding scene between the two of them was good enough.
You guys are prude. It's fine.
It felt unnecessary for this.
Yeah.
And a lot of this movie, I think, could have been cut out.
Even when Sersi does her reminiscing, she thinks about their relationship over the course of all those years, and she sees all of the scenes in a montage really quick that they had gone through together. I don't even think that the gratuitous, unnecessary sex scene was even included in her look back at all of the important moments that they had. So even she thinks it wasn't that good, and that speaks a little bit to Ikaris's work. And maybe that's why, in the end, he decided to just fly into the fucking sun, because if he's never going to be able to satisfy her for the rest of eternity, he might as well just kill himself. And that is my thesis on that.
Okay.
And that's Robert's review of the Eternals
Sex scene.
I will also say, like, I don't think we touched on how we were frustrated with Kingo in the finale, but like the rest of the film, I really loved him. Like, Kamal and Johnny being like the humor of this film. Yes. Like he's a great comedian, but like his timing was so perfect.
Yeah, he was so desperately needed in this movie. When they announced the casting of him, it wasn't necessarily like question marks, but it was like, what's he gonna do? You know? And basically it was save the first 2/3 of this film from itself. Because he's funny. Although at the beginning some of the timing didn't hit. Like they played music over him saying something, or a couple of things happened weird where his jokes weren't able to land, but it wasn't his fault. It was more like what else was happening while he was also talking that was strange. There's at least one in a room full of them where he says something that's actually humorous, but it doesn't even allow it to happen. The moment doesn't even...
Is it straight up him off screen? Because there's a moment where he makes a joke about the Kindle and how you can't explain what it is unless you know what an iPad is, which I thought was actually funny, but it was clearly like he's in a voiceover booth reading this joke because he's not even on screen for it. Yeah. And then it's just focused on Sersi and...
No, it was focused on Druig and Ikaris doing the Twinkie and the tablet thing.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Which, like, I thought that was a little bit funny.
But, like, that joke was great, but the timing of it and the placement of it was, like, a little off.
Yeah.
And some of the jokes, to me, came off as very irritating and hollow.
And we need a joke here because we're dragging through this and we need the crowd to emotionally react to something that they're seeing. So throw a joke in there.
Yeah, and
punch
then
this up, Kumail.
To pair him with Karun.
That dude.
Amazing. He was like one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite.
Yeah, I was dying, dude. He was
I'm his valet.
Dude.
Like, hilarious.
But then they make him heartfelt by the end, too.
Yeah. That's like, he was a character that I believed wholeheartedly. He's like, oh, why don't you go home? And he's like, what am I going to do? Watch TV?
Yeah.
Like, genuine character, heartfelt. He was like the human anchor. We were along for the ride with him and Kit Harington.
Yeah. No, I liked him a lot, and I thought he was fucking hilarious. And then, like, it gave Kingo, who's cracking jokes that offset the seriousness of it, it gave him also a reference point or an anchor point to, like, the part of the humanity that he loves so much now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that guy is really the physical embodiment of all of the things that he loves about humanity, basically. But then Kingo's like introduction with the whole Bollywood number and all of that shit, like, I thought that was super cool, even though it was really long and didn't do anything for the rest of the film.
We haven't talked about Makari yet.
Because she's in the movie sometimes.
She probably the most underused character, but I do think I liked her when she was there. She's
so underused, and I did like her when she was there, and I wanted more of her.
Makari I really liked when they actually explained her deafness and then, like, how her power relates to it and that she can hear the vibrations of people's voices and shit like that. So even if she's not looking at you, she knows that you're talking. Like,
she could, like, sense it.
I thought that was really cool, and I liked that they leaned into it rather than not mention that she's deaf at all, because it seemed like they could have just not even fucking talked about it. But I like that there was like at least a scene that gave some shine to it in some way, you know.
A lot of them really care that much about like keeping a secret. Besides like Sersi like wants to hide it from like her students and from Dane and everything. Everybody else is just like, I mean, yeah.
I'm flying, shoot lasers out of my eyes. Speaking of not caring, and then I said lasers out of your eyes. How did you guys feel about the near endless DC references in this movie? There were only 2, but that's like a mountain in a Marvel film.
It irritated me in the moment, but then, yeah, because it just felt very unnatural, and it pulled me out of the movie immediately for some reason. I don't know why. Are they talking about
Clark Kent? What the fuck?
I think the Superman thing invited itself because
now those characters exist in the MCU.
Yeah, as characters,
but like, they didn't have to ever mention them, and the only people that would have said anything about Superman would have been people in internet comment rooms and not anyone on screen, because they wouldn't have existed. But now they exist. Now Batman's a thing, and he has Alfred so it's our Batman and Superman. And I think that's just weird to invite into their canon.
That they're doing it in the same way that like Batman uses Zorro. They're like establishing a baseline that like these characters have inspired popular culture throughout all of time.
Yeah.
In a universe where actual Captain America and actual Iron Man fought in downtown New York City against aliens, and we know that there's merch that exists inside the MCU for those characters because people have shirts and toys and masks and the whatnot, that somebody in the Marvel universe at a publishing company went, I know some of those heroes are real, but what if we came up with fictitious ones?
Well, okay, so the whole caveat of Marvel is that it's exactly like our universe, except the Marvel characters are real. Yeah. And like, I mean, if you want to like get into it, like those DC characters predate any of the character in the cinematic universe's stories besides Captain America by like 50 years. You could even
then,
and like even based on like what we've been told in this movie, like Sprite could have gone to fucking Action Comics and like pitched the story just to fuck with Ikaris.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that would be amazing if that was the case, I guess.
And I think the DC references might also just be like a kind of Easter egg of like, because Eternals is a Jack Kirby creation and he famously worked for both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like, I mean, and if they said like a New Gods thing, nobody would understand what the reference was.
Right. I mean, if they went that deep on it, I accept. And I will fold my time and cease to complain. But I don't think that they thought about it that much.
I think they did.
I think they did.
I think they probably had this conversation too. They're like, should we make this joke?
And I think everyone in the room that didn't go probably not is wrong.
Whether or not they did, there's going to be the thing that like Ikaris is just a ripoff of Superman.
Yeah, but nobody in the universe is going to be saying that except people that are watching the universe. So it doesn't really matter that people say that.
But a little
when you
kid,
have Superman exist as a character in that universe.
But a little kid would say that. A little kid would say, that's Superman.
Not if Superman didn't exist as a character in the MCU.
Yeah, but his point of reference is like, oh, I like Superman. And he looks at Ikaris and he goes, oh my God, it's Superman.
Yeah, like a real life Superman.
Yeah.
We're way too deep on this. I just don't understand why they did that. And I think it's stupid as fuck.
We basically touched on every character aside from Kit Harington's character. Also, I had no idea about any of these characters going into the film.
Okay.
Including this one. I liked that he was just a guy for the whole movie. He was just a guy up until the post credits, which I also really liked. But
I really liked him throughout. I think Kit Harington's a really good actor anyway. So I thought he did a really good job with what he had here. And I do like that he stays a regular dude, as far as we know, for the entire film. But he was the only character I had a basic background on previous to going to see this. So he was the one character that I was like hoping for a little bit more or inclinations of what he was going to become. And they gave us that. He gets the ring with the family crest on it, which is obviously going to come back into play at some point soon, it seems. But the post-credit scene featured him opening a case that contained the ebony blade.
And bringing this up just made me feel like an asshole for our whole previous conversation, because it brings up the fact that the Arthurian legends are real in this world. So maybe their fantasies are all real stories. But yeah, but I love that. And then you left out the most important part, that he hears a voice off screen, and it's our first hearing of Mahershala
Samuel
Ali.
L. Jackson.
No.
Wait, what?
It's the other black guy.
So I didn't know who it was.
It
Yeah, I
dawned
didn't know
on me
either.
walking out of the theater.
I walked out of the theater and I was just like, wow, it seems really weird to me to use both credit sequences to introduce brand new characters and then not even show us one of them. But to just use his voice, it all amounts to like not being worth much of anything, because we know that he's supposed to play Blade, but like it just like it seemed like really strange to not show the guy that's talking, or us not recognize the voice of the person that's talking. Like it doesn't necessarily mean anything, because we don't even know who the fuck that is.
Like, I wouldn't have known if I didn't look it up, honestly. Yeah, it's exciting. I really liked Kit's performance in that scene. That whole thing worked. The sound that it made when he opened the chest was really cool.
Yeah.
It gave like this dark energy vibe. And like I said, I don't really know anything about Black Knight, the character, but it seems like magical, and like I'm really intrigued. The way that Marvel's utilized magic in the past, something like medieval magic, seems like really fun.
Yeah. When you go look up that character, just like the basic description of him, you're going to be like, what the fuck? I'm telling you.
Oh my God.
It's crazy.
I like that Kit Harington, like, he got cast in this because he was Jon Snow, and like he's going to be a guy with a sword, but I like that he gets to play like such a different character, but still be a guy with a sword.
Yeah.
And then the other post-credits scene, we got
The first one.
Harry Styles has now entered the arena.
He's Star Fox.
Star Fox 64.
First of all, he basically is a dead ringer for that character. Like the side by side is like, that's impeccable. That's impeccable casting. Even if he's like a dog shit actor, which he's not necessarily, because he was in Dunkirk, right?
Yeah, and that was a Chloe Zhao decision. She was like, I wanted him when I pitched this, because I guess she pitched, that was part of her original pitch for this film, was that to be a setup for Star Fox.
That's cool.
And she was like, I want Harry Styles.
Even the personality of those characters, I think, is I guess he's not a character, he's a person, but like the personality of the celebrity Harry Styles, I think matches up with the character of Star Fox. Definitely. I think everybody thought they were going to change Thanos' backstory, but it looks like they're going to acknowledge that he is actually an Eternal and really expand that like Eternal universe.
I guess the biggest thing to come out of that, and it's something that we didn't necessarily mention, were their costumes, where everybody had a very similar tunic-like thing on with the different spheres and whatnot. And then when you think back to Thanos's, it's kind of tunic-esque, where it has the same kind of shoulder deal, and then it comes down thinner on the chest area. So it's not it's not exactly the same, but it's very similar. So he could have altered it himself, whatever. But like, it'll go to that point, I feel like. Yeah.
And it's like a weird thing that I don't know if they'll like follow in the comics, where like Thanos isn't a pure Eternal. He's like a Eternal that carries a deviant gene.
Yeah, I remember. I read something about that where he would have a deviant gene and it would become like an issue growing up for him.
Well, that's how he looks like a big purple thumb and everybody else looks human.
Yeah, and there's a theory floating around that the reason why Titan is destroyed is because it was a host planet for a Celestial.
Oh, shit.
I mean, that would make sense.
Nice.
And so the reason why Thanos is trying to do the snap is to save the Earth from that happening.
Because
We'll save
with
the universe.
with less population, the Celestials can't be born anymore.
Be born.
Right.
Nice.
And
Wow.
even like when I was bringing up
That's like
Ultron in the beginning, I wonder if there's something within the stones that like wants to fight the Celestials as well.
That's like a really great job of some backdoor writing on that one.
Yeah, right?
if that's the case, yeah.
If they follow through with that, that's a work of fucking pure logistical magic of having that actually stick the landing, because that's purely by accident it fucking worked out perfectly. So
God. And there's that line in Infinity War when Iron Man scans the planet and he says it looks like it's off its axis. What the fuck?
Man.
What the fuck? Jesus Christ, dude. Oh my God.
So that's what's going to happen to the Earth now, right? Because
Maybe,
the
who
Celestials
knows?
kind of like hanging out halfway.
Ajax says, she says that the snap delayed the emergence, but then they brought everybody back and made it happen again.
yeah.
And that was Ajax's like reason she changed her mind.
Right. Like the like intense relief she felt when like that immense tragedy happened, but she knew that it would delay, I guess not more massive in the grand scheme, but like for Earth, just like a total tragedy.
That's crazy. We uncovered some shit here today, fellas.
Yeah. So now with that in hindsight, do you think that this will increase the rewatchability and enjoyment level of this film for you?
I think that remains to be seen. Depending on how many reverberations come out of this.
The way they're marketing it with this will change everything. Like if
Yeah.
it doesn't have
Yeah, but they
huge
can literally
reverberations.
say anything. It doesn't matter. Because
Yeah.
nobody remembers what the fucking tagline is.
Yeah,
going
but
forward.
there's a giant fucking celestial
No.
hanging out of the
I'm
ocean
saying-
now.
No, I'm just saying, like, if this does what it seems to intend to do going forward, this becomes like Civil War. Initially, it didn't seem like it mattered much, but like everything keeps going back to what things that happened in that and Age of Ultron, where Age of Ultron became super, super fucking important. It just took, I think, 10 more movies that came out after it and a couple of TV shows to be like, holy shit, Age of Ultron was like massive in the MCU. It had a little bit itself of a resurgence because of WandaVision and people understanding now how much it actually meant in the overall scheme of things. So hopefully that happens to this and it becomes more enriching to watch once you get properties in the future. Like if you come back in like 3 years after seeing a couple of movies that have really expanded on the ideas here, and then you rewatch this, you're like, oh my God, they were setting up so much shit. I hope that happens. And the MCU is typically able to do that. I just named 2 other ones that happened to. So hopefully.
I think the MCU lately has really been drawing off of Hickman's run on Avengers and his big events, which I could see something like Infinity or that era when the Avengers were creating Avengers worlds and like they stood their ground against Thanos and an onslaught of like basically like godlike beings, and then they fought a war across space and led all these other advanced civilizations to victory. I could see something akin to that happening with the new lineup.
Yeah, especially because Captain Marvel is like always off-world helping other people.
Right. And then with all the multiverse stuff happening, I don't see how this isn't building to Secret Wars someday. The Star Fox stuff makes me think maybe like Annihilation might be a thing. I mean, there's so many cosmic stories that it seems like they're taking three paths where like they're like really building a lot of cosmic Marvel stuff. They're building a lot of magic Marvel stuff. And then now they're doing multiverse stuff. And it's all going a little haywire.
But like, so this movie is such like a pulled out view of what we've seen so far.
Yeah.
And like, so say the Disney Plus stuff is like the street level. That's like as close to the actual action that we're getting.
Yeah.
So like this movie expanded the MCU in such a expansive way to me that it's fascinating. Like you said, down the road when we get 2, 3, 4 of these films where we get payoffs to, or like even explanations of, like, I want to see an Eternals 2 where we get more of their flashback stuff, because with them interacting with history and being there for like big events, I love that shit. So like, give me more of that and less of whatever Bill Skarsgard's thing was.
It didn't matter at the end.
But yeah, like I'm hoping that the more that we get from this movie, the more importance that this movie will hold.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if they find the World Forge and if that's a way to resurrect anybody. And I also wonder if like they could resurrect Thanos that way. Because it might come down to some of the most interesting stories, like Annihilation Conquest, is when Thanos is like their reluctant ally. It's like everybody in the room fucking hates you, but you're the only one who can help us right now.
Yeah.
But overall, I enjoyed Eternals. I don't necessarily know if I'll include it in an MCU rewatch like every single time. I think I'll rewatch the movie. And I just hope that it means more in the future when they start paying off more of those things. I think it had really cool elements. I think it had some strong performances, some not so strong performances. The way that the story structure flowed didn't really work for me. But what are you going to do when you have 10 characters that you need to introduce and an entire world to build and establish?
Well, here's what you do. You make them all line up and you pull that camera the fuck out.
Well, and I guess that's it. Any other final thoughts, guys, on Eternals?
No, I agree with you. I liked it, and I liked more of it than I didn't like. Some of it bothered me, and some of it was like really entertaining and really interesting. I'm excited to see the characters that survive move forward. Some of the ones that died, I was kind of sad about, to be honest, because they were like interesting. I thought it was good. As far as like an MCU rewatch is concerned, I don't know that other than like for my son to see this, I don't know that I'm ever going to start at Iron Man and walk all the way through all these movies ever again. I rewatched the ones that now they've become like comfort watches for me, except for Winter Soldier, because that's my favorite and I don't want to sully it in my brain. I only ever want to watch it a few times. I don't want to get so familiar with it that I could recite the dialogue, because I love that movie so much that I want to be surprised every time I watch it.
I love this movie too much to watch it.
Yes.
Robert, spoiler, it's Bucky.
Fuck.
The Winter Soldier's Bucky.
But he's dead. We saw him fall off the train, Jordan. No, but yeah, so this is good. I mean, I'm definitely going to wind up rewatching this when it becomes available on Disney Plus, and then, you know, a second watch of it obviously will fill in blanks and cracks and stuff like that from what I remember of the information that they gave. I don't know that I necessarily liked having this movie as the palate cleanser for Dune for me, because I felt that there were some similar aspects, and the things that were similar about the two of them were things that I did not like about either. So, this to me was not a good chaser for Dune at all. I don't recommend watching them back to back or even a couple of weeks apart. Really give yourself a lot of shit in between the two of them, I feel like, personally. Joe, what were your final thoughts?
I really enjoyed Eternals. I was very interested by the things it brought forward. I really loved all the characters, and I liked that every character had their moment. It wasn't without its faults. You know, the climax of the Deviants, the underuse of Makari. But overall, I really had a good time. I enjoyed the filmmaking and the story that I got to see, and I laughed my ass off when I saw Pip the Troll roll out of the shadows. Yeah. It's a good one for me. I'm not really one to rewatch. I don't think I'll ever, like Yezi said, I'll never rewatch the entire run ever.
It seems like it's impossible.
I'm gonna do it one day. I'm gonna do it, but
if I don't know when. Bedridden old man, I'll do it, and then
put on my Iron Man.
I'll get to like the post credits of whatever the like 60th movie is, and I'll go and that'll be it.
Joe's grandson has to grab a Blu-ray player and go
I know, I'll be
in my disc.
I'll be in the Disney hospital where they play it all the time.
They'll have an Iron Man nurse come in.
My son will be weeping because he'll be the one to inherit all my debt. I liked Eternals is what I'm getting at.
Isn't it great that in the MCU, global warming is part of our larger God's grand scheme to end our existence? So keep on burning those fossil fuels.
So anyway, let us know what you guys thought about Eternals. Did you like it? Did you not enjoy it? Do you think it's one of the better MCU movies? Are you excited about the large, encompassing story that they're starting to unfold a little bit more? Hit us up on social media at Pop Kannon. Don't forget the K. It's what makes us special.
And if you'd like, you could subscribe to us here on YouTube where you're looking at our beautiful faces. Just hit that subscription button and possibly the notification bell. It'll just let you know when we upload new episodes if you're not already paying attention. And you could subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform by searching Pop Kannon.
You can also follow us individually. I am on Twitter and Instagram at Joe for Broke.
I am on Twitter and Instagram at Yesball.
And I am on Twitter and Instagram at JL24FPS. So thank you very much for watching and or listening. Stick around, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. For Pop Kannon, my name is Jordan.
I'm Robert.
I am Tiamat.
And we will see you on the very next episode.
R.I.P. Tiamat.